Hi, my name's Andrew Bell, and welcome to the West is the Best Show. So, I'm exceedingly grateful for AJ, the producer, who gets me coffee every morning, which is very, very exciting. It keeps me in the loop and able to function and provide all this luxurious content for you guys to enjoy. So, I was debating a lot of different things. I just got back from vacation. It was almost 2 weeks. I was in El Paso, Texas, which is not very fun if you've ever been there or are familiar with the area. However, I was debating a lot of different things. I'm glad, very, very grateful for Jason, JL Van Dyke, for coming on the show and sitting in for us. And I really appreciate Jason. So if you haven't seen that episode, go back to the one before this and watch his. He did a fantastic job. He talked about guns, did some impersonations. He clarified a lot of legal things. Jason is an incredible person if you've never met him. He does some consultation for us for WIDIB, which is very, very cool, and he's also a senior contributor with us. So I love Jason to death, and he's a very good guy. I think that the people in his life that know him personally are honored to know him. But so like I said, I was debating a bunch of different topics, what I'd like to talk about, and I can talk about basically anything, and everybody has a political opinion, and so politics is not necessarily all of what I would like WIDIB to be. WIDIB, we're kind of expanding it. We're looking to do a bunch of different things. It's obviously a politically charged environment we find ourselves in, so I want to kind of get away from that because political stuff's everywhere. And I don't think people are getting tired of it. I just want WIDIB to be something that's greater than that, that is going to be able to be marketable and valuable to people who don't give a shit about stuff like that. So I want to get out of just talking about maybe libertarian or conservative politics. We're looking at bringing on some different kinds of people. Most of all the dudes that are working for us are straight white guys. I'm not saying I have a diversity quota, but I think perspective is important. So we're looking at getting some different types of people on there. You know what I'm talking about. And so we're looking at doing that, as well as some people to expand the kind of the content that we're providing out there for you guys. Like, I want to get some people to talk about makeup, because makeup's real popular right now, guys or girls. I want to talk about, music. I know Nicholas Smith is, talking about maybe doing some stuff for us for music, but those are all big things. So just kind of touching base on a lot of the WIDIB stuff. I have a meeting with the partners, and we're going to go over some important stuff. While I was on vacation, I tried my best to relax, but I had to work because I was going to go crazy. So I did a 7-page business plan with a relative of mine who was a retired Boeing corporate executive. He was in charge of HR for about a third of the country. So he helped me create a extensively detailed business plan. So we're going to be rocking and rolling pretty soon here. It's going to be a little bit more serious. We brought on Mason Adams is the managing editor, who's doing a fantastic job. Mason, if you're watching this, I love you. I'm going to kiss you on the cheek next time I see you. So basically, I just kind of wanted to talk about myself today, which maybe sounds a little self-centered, but a lot of people don't know a whole lot about me. And if I'm going to have this show, you obviously have to be interested in the person that's providing you content. So a lot of people know this gentleman right here in the tie, and they like him. That's why they watch his show. So I kind of want to give you guys a little bit backstory about me. So for the next 45 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking about my personal story, some interesting things that have happened to me, and if you should and why you should care about the things that I have to say. So let me take a drink of my coffee and put your seatbelt on, because we're going to get ready to roll. So black with a little bit of sugar is perfect. So for those of you I haven't met, my name is Andrew Bell. I was born in the middle of the desert in El Paso, Texas. If you're familiar with the shape of Texas, it's the little pointy part at the end before it goes to the top or whatever. And well, to go even farther back than that, my parents met. My dad was a truck driver for, he clarified, not 16 years but 26 years. And he met my mother. She was working at a Office Depot, Office Max kind of place. And so they kind of started courting each other and dating, all this kind of stuff. And then eventually, I guess I was the stroke too far, and I was conceived out of wedlock, which is something that happens very often. So obviously, my dad, being the stand-up gentleman he was like, man, I gotta I gotta provide for this woman or whatever. So stepped up, be a solid dude. My dad's a solid guy. He looks nothing like me, but he's a gentleman of the first grade. So basically, I came along in December 6th of 1994. I'm a youngster. I'll be 23 in December. A lot of people say I'm more mature for my age, but I'll let other people be the judge of that. Because I think that when you talk about, I think if you start aggrandizing yourself, like, oh, I'm so humble, it's like, you're not humble. Shut the fuck up. So I don't like to attribute myself. I don't like to attribute a lot of things to myself. I let other people do that for me. But so basically, I started my kind of career in life very young. I guess I was always kind of like a nice kid, is what everybody told me. So I would always get in trouble for giving all of my shit away. Like as a kid, like all of my parents, well, both my parents, and then my relatives and stuff, they would get pissed because they would give me stuff, and like I guess I just had a kind heart, so I'd be giving people all my shit away. So they'd be super pissed at me. I went to a Christian private school for kindergarten and first grade, which was interesting. I had to dress basically. There's a dress code. Like I could dress however I wanted, but like logos had to be small enough where you could cover it with your palm or something like that. And then every Friday I had to dress up in like a suit and tie, which was fun. My mother was the secretary at the school, so that way we would be able to afford it. My dad did okay, but very young, my parents got in a whole bunch of debt, leading us to some pretty interesting financial situations. Going without as a kid was interesting because you have to have. My parents are incredible people. Like it takes an unbelievable amount of entrepreneurship to be like, hey, dude, we have to find this amount of money today to be able to make it happen. So parents are awesome people. We basically jumped around from a bunch of crappy apartments because they were just doing whatever it took to provide for their kids. I have a younger brother who's a year and a half younger than I am, who looks like Dan Bilzerian without the beard, which is weird. He looks nothing like me, but he's like jacked as shit. He looks like an action figure. Unbelievable amount of self-discipline. He's a really good guy if you ever have the chance to meet him. But so anyways, my brother eventually went to the same private school I did when I was in first grade. He went into kindergarten because he was a year and a half younger than I am. So, my parent living in El Paso. For those of you who've had the unfortunateness of even being in El Paso, you understand that it's on the border of Mexico, which is a third world country, but the city that is right across the border is Juarez. Juarez, from my understanding, last time I checked the statistics, was the third most dangerous city in the world. And so if you're like attractive woman and you go too close to the border, it's like, congratulations, you're never going to be seen again. So I like my kidneys, so I've never gone to Mexico or even close because that's just the environment in which I could have crossed the border. So I've never been, nor do I care to go. But anyways, my parents decided that, hey, like the gang violence and the scariness and the graffiti and shooting is probably not a great way to raise these little kids. So my dad is full-blooded Spanish. Both his parents are full-blooded Spanish, and both of their parents were from Spain, the motherland. I got some Spanish. I got some olives from Spain that are stuffed with anchovies that I forgot to bring AJ today because I'm a mean person. That I brought back from vacation. But so anyways, they were like, hey, dude, we got to move. And my dad was a truck driver, so he'd kind of been over the place. So he kind of had a good feel for like, hey, we're around the United States. We want to go. They pretty much liked Texas, so they're going to stay in Texas. So they basically were like, hey, let's go move over to DFW. And so they looked around DFW. And my dad kind of settled on South Garland, which is about 45 minutes west of Dallas, which is kind of like an older kind of town. But South Garland's like not a pretty good area. relatively speaking. I mean, coming from El Paso, it's definitely a step up. I grew up in the hood in like a haunted house next to the border. Like my grandmother was basically schizophrenic. That we lived with her half my life, so I could tell you some interesting stories about that, to say the least. So childhood was interesting, but so when we moved to South Garland, my parents were like, "Dude, we're not putting these little white kids in a South Garland public school," and they didn't really have the means or interest to put me in a private school. Or I don't even think there was even close to South Garland. So, anyways, they're like, "Hey, we got to homeschool these fucking kids," and so I went to being, okay, I guess socially, to like being jammed into a shitty apartment in South Garland doing nothing. So me and my brother had always shared a room up from this point on. And so obviously living in small apartments. So basically me and my brother, we would do homeschool in the morning and then we would lock ourselves in our room basically and just play video games all day long. Computer games, all this kind of shit. I don't know if you've seen me, but like right here on my bicep, I have a Mortal Kombat tattoo, and people always make fun of me for that or like think it's cool or whatever. But the reason I have that is because me and my brother basically spent all our time together. We had no friends. The only people that I basically had in my life was just my brother. You know, there were some neighborhood kids, and we'd play rugby and we'd fuck around and all this kind of stuff. And we'd go swimming at the pool and stuff. But basically, it was just me and my brother. We hung out and spent most of our time together. And we had like a really strong bond. For me, I didn't really like playing the video games too much because I really wasn't good at them. I was more of a creative kind of kid, and I just like had ideas that would like consume my thoughts, and like if they didn't come to fruition, like I'd have a heart attack. And he was just kind of more of like the active, hands-on, like hand-eye coordination dude. So he would play the video games, and I would watch him play the video games, and it was kind of like a movie for me as a kid. So it was interesting, and so we would spend all our time together. And one of the video games we played a lot was Mortal Kombat. So it was one of my favorite games growing up, and it still is. I don't play video games anymore because I'm a grown man, but it was fun. And so in 2005, we moved from that shitty apartment to like 45 minutes past Garland. So it's probably like an hour and a half outside of Dallas to the west, I'm sorry, the other way, whatever it is. So you go from shitty city out into the middle of nowhere. So it's like a waspy subdivision, like the super like this kind of thing that you'd see on movies, where it's like a typical like white neighborhood thing. My parents could not fucking afford this thing. My dad was working for a pretty well-known trucking company, and he was making about the medium household income today, if that makes sense. So he wasn't. It was better than a poke in the eye, as Wes Lefevre would say. Weston Lefevre. But so basically, my brother had his room for the first time. So he basically locked himself in his room and never came out. And he's always been continuing to play video games. So I was kind of more edgy. Like I was into hardcore music. And so I started skateboarding and hanging out and doing all this kind of crazy shit. So I kind of took off and being more social and stuff. And he just kind of, he had friends and he would come and hang out with us. But me and some of the people out there weren't particularly kind to my little brother. So he was... I just thought it was like just male ribbing, and he just didn't appreciate it, so he just fucking took off. And he's pretty like a reserved gentleman these days. But anyways, it was interesting because I progressively got more and more. I guess being a teenager is hard. We all understand that. Most of the people watching this have been a teenager or are a teenager. It's incredibly hard, relatively speaking. Like you don't know who you are. You don't like the way you look. I know I didn't like the way my voice sounded. I didn't like anything about myself. It's incredibly difficult. You know, I'd been 16 years old. You know, I attempted suicide multiple times. I have a tattoo of a noose on my elbow. You know, I would like take a bath and then like go underwater and like hit my head up against the faucet trying to pass out and like die in the tub. Like I was in a really dark place and I needed a lot of help. I didn't feel like anybody in my life cared about me, which wasn't true. And so I really got into like super aggressive like music. So I really got into the hardcore scene. And so it was easier for me to take my depression into anger because that was an easy way of coping it. I had some unhealthy relationships or whatever that facilitated me not killing myself, but I guess it was a necessary evil at the time. And so from then on out, but maybe I just come from maybe an unhealthy way of thinking about things where I, as a little kid, felt myself as a burden to my parents that didn't have a lot of financial means. So, they did the best to provide, but I still had this unhealthy thing where I felt like a burden, which is weird to have as a 6-year-old. I'm sure maybe some people are able to relate to that. If not, maybe I'm just a weird person. But I would, like, at a 13-year-old, I would grow my hair out super long because I didn't feel that I was worth the $13 it took to go get a haircut. I had, like, no self-worth. So, it's some pretty heavy shit. So, later in life, I don't know. I just, like, it was weird, and I just didn't want to be like that person anymore. So I just felt like I needed to make money so that way I could alleviate the burden that I was to my family, air quotes, or whatever that means. So at 15 years old, I was like, dude, I got to make money, dude. I got to, like, bank cash. So at 15 years old, I started cleaning shit out of horse stalls, and to make extra money, I started mowing grass, mowing lawns, and all that kind of stuff. And then I also made and sold jewelry. I would make groceries were really popular back then, so I made like these special rock beaded rosaries that were like the cross was like actual nails, and it was like wrapped in like a different color coil and all this kind of shit. It was cool, and I made a bunch of money. And I sold it. I just basically spent it on stupid shit because I had no financial discipline. And then when I was 16 years old, I got my first real job. I was 16 years old working full-time as a mechanic at a Nissan dealership. It's a very, very popular Nissan dealership in the DFW area. You can probably guess what it is. That one. And it was interesting. Going from basically I was a little kid. I was 16 years old. Going into like this super dirty, rough environment. And I had the hustle, determination, motivation, all that kind of stuff. But it was interesting because I was super into cars and music, and those are basically the two things I only gave a shit about in the entire world. And going to a place where I liked, if I was playing video games, I would basically only be playing racing games, and in the racing games I would only be driving Nissan. So like Nissan was like the thing for me, and I wanted to be a Nissan dealership car mechanic when I grew up. And that was really what I wanted to do. So I went to a birthday party of a friend of mine, and I was talking to his dad, and I knew his dad worked for Nissan. The dude had a fucking house that was like a castle. Like I was like, holy shit, this dude makes like a killing. I didn't know what he did, and I was like, I know this guy works for Nissan. So I was like, hey, Mr. whatever his last name was. I said, you work for Nissan, right? And he goes, yeah, why? I was like, oh, well, when I grow up, I want to be a Nissan mechanic. And he goes, why? I was like, because I like Nissans a lot. Like, if I'm ever playing racing games, I'm only driving Nissans. They're my favorite cars, like, ever since the 90s and all the 7 and 60s, and I named off all the models and all the specs about the cars. I would go to car shows at 17 years old, and they'd be showing, like, the new, like, model of cars and shit, and I would be, like, checking out the car, and, like, the spokes lady would come up and be like, oh, you like the car? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I love it. And she goes, well, what do you know about it? And so I literally, like, named off every fucking spec about the car. It was a Nissan GTR before it even came out. Yeah. And so she was like, you really know this much about this car? I'm like, yeah, I fucking love it. Like, this car is awesome. Like, and I would, the tires are this, so that way they don't come off the deal. And then, like, I like every single detail. Like, this suspension adjusts itself every 0.52 seconds or whatever it was. And she was like, holy shit, you know a lot about this car. She goes, what's your email address? And so she got my email address and all this kind of stuff. And she goes, here, let me give you something. And she gave me one of the owner's pamphlet things that you have to put like a $5,000 deposit on to get the fucking car. Like, you can't even test drive this car until you put a deposit down on it. So she gave me this pamphlet that you have to buy the car to get, which was awesome. I think I lost it somewhere because I'm an idiot. But anyways, I was at the birthday party, back to that. And he goes, why do you want to be a Nissan? I'm like, I just like Nissans a lot. I want to do it. And it's all I really want to care. That's all I care about, basically. And he goes, how old are you? I said, 16. And he goes, all right, well, when you turn 18, give me a call. I said, okay, like, whatever. Like, I didn't know who he was. So then a week later, my mom wakes me up. And she goes, Andrew, get out of bed right now. I said, what? She goes, because the guy's wife called my mom and was like, hey, go to this dealership. Like, he wants to meet Andrew. I was like, okay. So she's like, my mom was like, get the fuck up. Like, you have an interview in like 30 minutes. I was like, what the hell? So I get on the nicest things that I own, which wasn't very nice. So then my parents drive me. I'm like sweating. I've never had an interview in my life. My heart's pounding. I'm all fucking nervous. So I go up there and I meet him, and like he's busy doing something else. So I'm like, man, he invites me up here, and so he gets done with what he's doing, and he goes, hey, talk to this guy. So like they pull me into this room, and then so I don't even know what an interview's going on, and so he's like, I'm meeting this dude. He's like, so tell me about yourself, and I'm like, just started talking about, what I'd done, and like volunteer work that I've done, and how much I like Nissans or whatever it was, and I just named off some specs or whatever, and how I'm a hard worker and all this kind of shit. And he goes, okay, interesting. And he seemed rather super unimpressed with me. Like he was like, who the fuck is this kid? Why am I wasting my time doing this? And so then they bring me back out, and then the Mr. Birthday Party man, he goes, hey, whatever. And so he shook my hand. He's like, hey, I want you to meet somebody else. So the shop foreman comes out, and he goes, hey, who is this? And he's sweating. He's like, I interrupted his work, and he's all pissed off at me. And he goes, so they pull me back into the office, and they go, I think I had a resume. I don't even remember. So he looks down at me, and he goes, are you willing to work hard? And I said, yeah. And he goes, do you know about cars? I said, yeah. And what I don't, I'm willing to learn. And he goes, how old are you? I said, 16. And he goes, he looks at the guy, and he goes, are you sure? And I was like, the guy was like, I guess. And so I was like, I'll do whatever it takes, man. And the guy goes, all right, will you take $9 an hour? And all my friends are making like $7.25. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'll take. I didn't say that. I was like, yeah, of course, whatever. He was like, all right. So the sweaty dude shook my hand, and then the dude comes back in, and I didn't know this dude was like second in charge of this dealership. Like he was the guy, and I was like, oh my god, like this is the guy. That's why he has the giant house. And he's like, congratulations, if you can pass the drug test, you're in. I'm sure you won't have a problem with that, right? And I was like, no, sir. Because I was a square when I was a kid. I mean, I still am. But so I go and take this drug test, and I had like spray painted the hood of my car or something. Like the night before I took the drug test, I was all freaking out that like maybe the spray paint was going to cause me to fail the drug test. I was freaking out. So anyways, I passed the drug test, flying colors. And so then I started working at this Nissan dealership. And it was funny because none of the guys liked me. They were like, who's this fucking kid? Like, he's a loser. And so I worked there for almost 2 years. All those motherfuckers loved me. They would call me Piglet because I would be super messy and I would spill shit all over the place. But I worked my fucking ass off. Being 16, 17 years old, making like, I was working over 50 hours a week with grown, like, aggressive, dirty grown men as a 16-year-old. And they treated me like shit. They picked on the fuck out of me. But it made me strong, dude. Like, seriously, being around these dudes that fuck with you all the time is interesting. And it was a really, really good learning experience for me. I think I wrote an article about it on West is the Best. And I think somebody on one of the pages was like, what have you done to contribute to Western civilization? I don't know who did that. It was kind of weird, but I was talking to him about that. But, yeah, so that was a fun experience. And then one of my relatives, I was telling him how stressed out I was, and just the romance kind of just wore off. It wasn't really what I wanted to do anymore. I was almost 18 years old, and all my friends were graduating high school, and I'm like, dude, I'm a fucking loser. I dropped out of school at 16 years old to work this full-time job, and I'm not going anywhere in life. And I started having, like, I was like, holy shit, I'm going to waste my life. So I felt like, man, I needed to, like, pump the brakes on this thing. I did my 2 weeks vacation, deuced out. I actually quit, which was stupid. I should have given my 2 weeks. I wrote this nice, huge letter to the dude who went out of his way to hire me, and I just quit that one day because I was frustrated. So from there, I kind of just watched Netflix every day for 2 months, and then I was like, dude, I gotta do something. So I sold everything I owned and moved to El Paso to live with some family, and I studied and got my GED in 8 months. I got my GED the same month Mark Wahlberg did. So what's up, Mark? Graduating class of 2013? Yeah, 13. So that was neat, and up until that point, I was pretty fucking stupid. I'm not gonna lie, pretty dumb. And now I kind of pride myself on being smarter than the average bear. I read a fuck ton of books. Like, I have a book collection that is not to shake a finger at, and I read a lot of books. I think I'm well cultured, and I have a lot of valued inputs because I think books are very important to read. The average American reads like one book a year, and some people are like, "Damn, that's more books than I read last year." But I think it's super important. Like anything you want to learn is in a book somewhere. And I think once you understand that the knowledge of all of the known universe is fucking available to you if you're willing to take the time and put your fucking attention to doing it, you can learn whatever you want. Like any problem you're having has already been solved by somebody. Just figure it, like just read the book. So I just was like, man, I gotta read. I gotta learn how to read, man. And so I started like buckling down and doing that kind of thing. And then when I moved back from El Paso, I got a even shittier job. Even shittier job. I went into one of the local gas stations, and there's this Jawa working there. I mean Jawa with complete care. I love those people. So, so I was like, hey man, like I need a job. We'll do whatever it takes. Like, hire me. And he was like, all right, so I'll give you $10 an hour under the table, and you're gonna stock beer in the back, and you're gonna bundle firewood, and you're gonna mop and all this nasty shit and clean the bathroom. I was like, all right, well, let's do it. So I had to cut and bundle firewood by hand with no gloves in the middle of winter outside the back of a shitty gas station in the middle of nowhere. And that fucking sucked. That was worse than the car dealership thing because everything was hot and sharp and like dirty. And with the gas station thing, like it was just a pain in the ass. Like everyone was fucking mean and it was shitty. It wasn't a good environment. And so I did that for a while. It's basically made enough money to like pay for stupid things. I didn't really ever start saving money or doing anything like important up until maybe recently. But so from then, I quit that job. I got a job working at a supermarket, and that was fun. I went from sharp and hot and dirty to clean and cold. I was working as a produce clerk, making fruits and vegetables look more important than fruits and vegetables. It was a very fun job. I learned a lot about retail and customer service because I had never really had to deal with customers up until this point. And so the gentleman who I was working under, the manager, outstanding gentleman. He taught me a lot about retail and how to have fun while you work, and he was very much like the eye kind of guy. Like we would spend like an hour like trying to make a pretty display out of like cardboard boxes, and then like make it look all perfect. And he would stand back and do this, and he would stare at it for like 20 minutes, and then he'd go do this, do this, do this, this, and like we would make it look perfect. And it was very, very fun. And so eventually, after a year and a half of doing that, they offered me the assistant manager position, making, I don't know, $14.50 an hour. And I was like, man, I don't want to do this anymore. So then I started working in finance with a friend of mine who reached out to me. He was like, hey, dude, like, let's do it. He's like, hey, because I was telling him about all this shit, like the problems with my job and how frustrated I was. Because once you work there for like 3 months at any job, you're like, I hate Maria and Marco's a bitch or whatever. He was like, dude, I made $2,000 last week. What did you do? I was like, I need to get my life together. And so at this point, I'm 18, 19, something like that. Maybe 20. And so I started doing that deal, got a bunch of financial certifications and licenses to the state of Texas, which I still have. So if you need anything, let me know. But so that was fun. Did a lot of that. I had to learn a lot of sales stuff and how to deal with people. People, like, sales is super important. The people is super important, and you really have to work on yourself. Like reading, it goes hand in hand with reading all the books and stuff, because you have to work on yourself. You should be working on yourself more than you work on your job, because you need to people talk about. Jim Rohn talks about this. He goes, minimum wage is back then when he was talking about is $5, but people say, oh, it should be 6. It should be 6. It should be 6. It's like, America's a ladder, right? It starts at $5 an hour, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then the CEO of Coke was like $80 million, right? Would the marketplace pay you $80 million? Yeah, they paid the CEO of Coke that, because he's running one of the biggest brands in the world. Anyone who sees the red with the white script knows that it's Coke. He's managing all these people, all this kind of crazy shit. He's bringing value to the marketplace. People get paid in direct proportion to the value that they bring to the marketplace and the difficulty of the problem that they solve. So if you're sliding a hamburger across the counter, it's a $7 an hour problem, dog. That's what you're fixing. If you whistle while you work, they'll pay you $8. So he's solving a greater problem, so they're giving him more money. So it's like people are, minimum wage should be not 8, it should be 9. It's like 9's already on there. 9's already an option. You just have to cultivate your value to be worth 9. So that's also very dangerous because they'll replace you with a robot and your whole thing's fucked up anyways. Have you seen those self-checkouts at Walmart? They're everywhere. I prefer them because most people don't like to talk to other people. Maybe I shouldn't do that because I get to meet new people and network and all that kind of fun, important things. But that's kind of like the short synopsis of my life. I can get into a little bit more detail. But yeah, I dated some crazy people throughout the time. I had some, problems and stuff like that. But that's mostly the main highlights. I did a lot of crazy shit. AJ, ask me some questions about my life, Mr. Producer Man, because I'm running out of steam.
Okay, who was your first girlfriend?
Well, being homeschooled at home, having no friends, I was, doing the online dating thing. And it was this girl that I met on Xbox Live. And it was stupid. But yeah, I don't think it counted. The first girlfriend I ever had, like, in person, like, it was like I met her in person and we started dating in person, was this girl. And she was definitely more attractive than I was. And I was working at the Nissan dealership this time. So I was banking like $400 a week. And if you're 16, that's like $100,000.
You're rolling.
That's like insane. So every time I took this girl on a date, I'd spend like $300. And she basically used me as a wallet. You
learned real fast, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. So basically, she had broken up. Her boyfriend had broken up with her, and then 2 months later, she started dating me. She asked a friend for my number, and I was like, "Why did she want my number?" Because I was weird. Like I wore like blue skinny jeans and hot pink belt, and I had like the emo like spiky back hair with the thing in the front, and like I'd wear like I was an emo kid. So I was like, "Why the fuck is this girl liking me?" Because she was like all Aeropostale and like spray tan, and she was very attractive. She's one of the most attractive women I've ever seen in my life, at least at the time. So I had no idea why she was going to be with me. And so basically, she was only dating me because I reminded her of her ex-boyfriend. And so both her parents were, I don't want her to see this and know who she is, but fuck it. Both of her parents were law enforcement or something like that. And they loved me. Which was, like, because any girls I'm dating, like, their parents fucking love me. They're all about it. Because I'm super nice. For the most part. We'll see what happens. But, it was funny because, so she started, like, doing this kind of thing to me. And where I wasn't appreciative of it. So, like, one day, my friend at the Nissan dealership was like, dude, because I was complaining to him about my problems. And he goes, just don't text her. Don't shoot her a text message, bro. Like, if you don't talk to her for an entire week and she doesn't talk to you, engage first, she's not interested. And I was like, holy shit. So it was really hard as 16 years old not to, like, start a conversation with this girl you're in a relationship with. So a week goes by and nothing. So then I texted her. I'm like, dude, I'm breaking up with you. You're only with me so that way I can buy you shit. You're only with me because I remind you of your ex-boyfriend. I'm not really about it. And she goes, yeah, sorry. I kind of figured that. Whatever. I didn't break up with you because I figured, because your parents are going through my parents were, like, having some marital problems at this time. She's like, I thought you'd kill yourself if I broke up with you. That's why she didn't dump me. I was like, how shitty. How shitty, right?
And so I was like, she was probably seeing her ex-boyfriend, too.
She was. She actually told me she'd, like, hung out with him a couple times after that. But, like, we all know what that means. Hung out. But, yeah, and she was like 16 years old, and she was very aggressive. Like, she was the kind of girl who would, like, she had experience. And I was, I'd, like, kissed one girl maybe, and she was, like, super aggressive. Like, she'd be, like, we'd be out in public, and she'd, like, slam me against the wall. She'd, like, start making out with me. I'm like, try humping. What am I supposed to do here? Like, I had no idea. Like, I'm like, I'm not touching you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was just super naive. So,
is she Hispanic?
I can't divulge her ethnicity, but she was half white and then half an exotic kind of thing. She was. I'll show you a picture later. No, but it was funny when I broke up with her. It was funny because she talked to my mom because they were friends, kind of. And she goes, "I was so pissed off." And then my mom goes, "Why?" And she goes, "Andrew broke up with whatever this girl's name was." And she goes, "Oh, I'm sorry, I heard about that." And then her mom goes, the first thing I said to her was, "What did you do to make that boy break up with you?" She was rooting for me. She was like, "My daughter's this and this and this." I was like, "Dang, like, how awesome do you have to be for the ex-girlfriend's mom to be rooting for you?" That was hilarious. But yeah, that was kind of
She's
that.
seen her daughter just date the worst types of dudes, and she
Oh
finally got
yeah.
a nice guy, and her mom was excited and was like, there's a nice guy, hang on to him. And
No, yeah, it was funny. It was her birthday, and I made her a cake, and I brought it to her house, and her mom, her mom a cake and whatever. We're hanging out, and we're at her house, and the girl was like, "Hey, let's go upstairs," and then I was having a conversation with her mom, and I was like, "Hang on, like I'm talking to your mom," so we finished talking, and then I start walking up the stairs with her, and she looks at me and she goes, "Andrew, I don't think that's a good idea." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And she goes, "Andrew, can I trust you?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course. Like, I'm not going to do anything." And she goes, "Fine. Okay." And so I go upstairs, and like the girl was like, "Hey, come on, listen." I'm like, "Nope, nope, nope, nope. I just told your mom, like, I can't do this, dog." So that was interesting. But it was funny. Like, her mom knew like how her daughter was. But other than that, like, most of the girls I dated were pretty cool. I dated some crazies, as does everybody. I dated some girls who were kind of a little bit more relaxed, and I don't know. I dated some prudy kind of girls, which is interesting. Yeah, I don't know. But now I've been almost single for almost 2 years because I work a lot, and girls don't like it. They don't like guys that work a lot. They like guys who are able to provide for them and be big and strong and all this jazz, but they don't like dudes that they can't spend a whole bunch of time with. I was dating this girl, and I only had 1 day off a week because you have to observe the Sabbath. And she was like, "Andrew, we need to have a serious conversation. I don't see you enough, and I really need to see you more," which was incredibly self-aware for her because she was emotionally all over the place. She had a very hard time conveying her emotions, how she felt in like a level manner that was not like super like aggressive. So I was like, wow, that's incredibly like self-aware. Like, okay, we'll have this conversation. And she goes, "I only see you once a week, and I need to see you more." I said, "Okay, how often do you want to see me?" She goes, "As much as possible." I said, "Okay, listen, I work 6 days a week, like 10 to 18 hours a day. And I have 1 day off a week, and I spend all of that day with you. I don't have any time for myself, and I spend all of my spare time with you. Now, what do you suggest that we do?" She didn't like that because I laid it out logically for her. Oh, this coffee's giving me burps. But that didn't work out because most of the girls, and I dated a bunch of girls. Not a bunch, but like I've dated girls where it's like they're all pissed off because I don't spend enough time with them. It's like, dude, 1 day a week's like a lot, especially if you're spending all day. It's like, shit, dude, like it's a lot of time. But
let me ask you this: what's the one quality that really attracts you to these females? I mean, it's easy. Some guys,
other than physically,
well, let's start with the physical stuff. I mean, it's easy.
okay. So you're asking what my type is?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so I usually go predominantly for white girls because we have the most in common. We share a culture. I've dated Mexican girls and all the lot. I just think that white girls, we jive a little bit better. I've dated Mexican girls and they're like super fucking aggressive. And I don't really appreciate like the Hispanic matriarchy thing where like the woman's in charge and she treats men like shit and all this kind of stuff. Like I don't understand why like we glorify it. Like, "I'll cut you, SA." Like, why? Like, that's a thing? Like, you're gonna like have that woman around you and act like that? I don't like that. So white girls are pretty much timid and they're a little bit more my speed, to say the least. So mostly date white girls, and I've dated like short girls, chunky girls. I've dated the mix. So My preference, I like brunette girls. I like brunette girls. I'm not a huge fan of blonde girls. Maybe it's because my mom's blonde and I don't like blonde girls. I don't know. But I would not oppose to dating a blonde girl. It's just not my preference. Like if in a perfect world, if I was able to create my wife in a lab or something, it would be, she'd be brunette and like, she doesn't have to be like a twig, but like skinnier. She could be like chunky, but like not unhealthy, right? You're not obese, you're dying kind of thing.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with a weight issue. It's always even if a girl was thick or big. If she
I've been
was,
on, yeah, I've been on dates with like bigger girls, but like I've never. I don't know. Like I'm 5'6", 126 pounds, 136 depending on what I'm doing basically if I'm working out. But I don't know. I just don't feel like super confident being around a girl that's like I'm fine with tall girls. Like tall girls do not intimidate me at all. Like I'll make the climb, bro. But like bigger girls, it's like I don't know. I can't put my finger on it.
I found that the bigger girls, the ones that kind of accept their body types and let their personalities shine through, they come off very attractive to me. Like
yeah, but like I don't understand like the I'm fat and I'm beautiful thing, and you have to accept me and you're an asshole.
Not
for
like
pointing it
that.
out.
Not like if they're overweight and they're glorifying being overweight. But there's some women that are, let's just call them overweight or chubby or thick, that they're not glorifying it, but
Well, all three of those things are
they're
different.
comfortable in their skin enough that they let their personality come through.
Okay,
And
that's an
when
interesting point.
people drop that sort of guard and they kind of be themselves, like I've found that some of the bigger girls that I have seen and dated and talked to, they're really cool. They're not as superficial. They're not as stuck up, and they're good drinking buddies half the time.
Yeah, thick girls and big girls and all these are all different types. Like I'm fine with a chunky girl, whatever. But what you're talking about, just for some clarification, is that if a girl's a little bit chunky, she knows that she's a little bit chunky, but she's not insecure about herself.
Right.
That's what I'm fine with. But if it's like I'm fat and beautiful and fuck you if you don't like, it's like I can't handle that.
Oh yeah.
Like you're dying.
If you're not attracted
healthy.
to me, then fuck you.
Yeah, it's like, dude, no. It's like I don't like that.
That's-
but if a
that
girl's
goes with the
confident
attitude that I was
and she's
talking
like,
about, though.
hey, like I may have a little bit extra, but like, dude, like I'm sexy. Like that's like whatever. Like kudos.
Yeah.
Like that's awesome. Like I'm all about that. But back to my type. Like I like brunette girls, skinny-er. Like just say if it was the UFC, she'd probably have to be in my weight division. If that's kind of like a nice way to say that. That's just my preference. I'm not an asshole. I'm not. If am I allowed to have a preference? I can have a preference. So that's my preference. I don't know. Like some just picky stuff, like pretty teeth. Like it's super super important. Like pretty teeth. Like I'm like, I like pretty teeth. I like it, but I don't know why. It's just nice. I like people are like, oh, are you with this man or are you with that man? Which you know what I'm talking about. I'm like, dude, I don't care. As long as she's got a pretty face, she's nice, she's a brunette, and she's skinny-er. Like, bro, like, let's get married. But, like, for the most part, it doesn't work out like that because I don't go out a whole lot. So I'm not, like, people. I was talking to this girl, and she's like, I don't understand. How the hell are you single? Like, you're super nice. I'm not aggrandizing. This is exactly what she said. So you're super nice. Like, you're super attractive. Like, you're super smart. Like, why are you, like, you're successful. Like, why are you single? I was like, because I don't fucking try.
It's by
I got in a
choice.
fight with my aunt while I was in El Paso. She was like, because she's Hispanic, right? I was seeing my little Mexican cousins, and they're little sweethearts. And she was like, she was pissed. She was like yelling at me at her dining table. She was like, why aren't you married? Why aren't you having kids? I was like, because I'm working. Like I'm trying to, I work my ass off so my future wife and kids, I can give them a quality of life that I think that they deserve, dude. Like I'm not gonna like drag someone into like this shithole of a life that I don't have prepared, man. Like as a man, it's your job and responsibility, your duty and obligation to go and create a life for you that is already successful. You bring in a woman so she doesn't have to struggle through the bullshit you have to deal with, man.
I agree with that.
It's super important. And if you fall in love young and you build your life together, that's awesome. But I don't know, like
It's rare. It's great, but it's also very, very rare for people to fall in love at 18 to 21 to 24 and stay together, especially in the environment that we live now. Everybody's sleeping with each other. There's no such thing as, people just don't, a lot of people, aren't into the family thing. It's very selfish. You have to be selfless to have a family. You have to put the lady before you. You have to put the child before you. You have to make sure that their needs are taken care of.
You should.
And one of the most important things to remember when you want to settle down is the person you choose to settle down with. It will make or break a relationship on both sides. If the girl doesn't choose the right man, if the man doesn't choose the right lady, it's just going to fail. You're not going to be happy. You're going to be miserable. I don't think there's a person out there that actually doesn't want to have a family and doesn't kind of want
They're called
a significant other.
feminists.
I think even feminists do. They just don't want men.
Deep down inside.
They just don't want men to be involved.
Well, I think that, I think dating is weird now, man. Like when you see in movies, I'm a youngster, right? But like in movies, like what is dating? Dating is, I see this pretty girl, and I'm interested in getting to know her better. Obviously, if you're rolling up on a stranger, you're just admitting that you're super shallow and you're only going on talking to her because you think she's attractive. So it's kind of hard to like initiate a conversation that's not bullshit because you can smell it. But if you're talking to a person, it's like, hey, I would, and dude, text messages, hey, you want to go on a date? You're stupid. You should do it in person or on the phone. It's like, hey, I had a conversation with my friend last night. He's like, you don't really have a whole lot of girls that are friends, do you? I was like, nope. I don't hang out with women. I date them. I don't want to have a bunch of friend girls. I get along with men. All my business acquaintances are men. I respect women, and I like women in the workforce or whatever. I'm pro-housewife. I'm not anti-women in the workplace. And I just hang out with dudes. I have the most in common with them, and it makes my life easier. And so when I'm on a date with a girl, I think it's different because people now it's this stage where I like you, you like me, you want to be my girlfriend, and like boom, you're committed. It's like, what the fuck? You need to be able to, like, as a guy, you're like, okay, let's see, and then you're like, oh, I like that one. This is very rudimentary. I'm not being chauvinistic. Oh, I like that one, so I'm gonna go and pursue her. So then you start like, hey, trying to present value, and then you convince her to be able to buy her dinners. And if she says no, that means she doesn't like you enough to have a free meal in your presence, which is you're fucking up basically. So, yeah, maybe. So, it's your job, dude. A date for a guy is an interview. It's like, hey, what's up? Like, I'm the man for the job, bro. I'll provide for you, dog. Like, that's your job. And so, a dating should be like, hey, I'm going to go on a date with you, and then I go on a date with you, then I go on a date with you, and then she should be doing the same thing. You should be dating people. You should be dating other people all the time. And then if you start dating the person over and over again, then you can ask them to become exclusive. Like, hey, I want you to be my girlfriend, or I want you to be my boyfriend. What do you think about that? And you have this dialogue. That's important. I don't think I've ever asked a girl to be my girlfriend if I hadn't been on like 4 or 5 dates with her. And when I'm on dates with girls, I never kiss them. And it drives them crazy.
There's a lot of women out there that the first date you go on with them, that you're dating them. Like
Yep.
as soon as they go on a date, you guys kiss her. The moment you have sex, she automatically will expect you. You can't be going on any more dates. You can't be sleeping with anybody else. Of course, she can do whatever she wants.
I think that you're setting the expectation on that one. I was talking to my friend last night, and he was telling me how he's been single for a while and how he'd been talking to this girl. It's like, dude, you're setting the expectation wrong. If you're like, why are you hanging out with this person? She's like, oh, you're my friend. I like you so much as a friend. It's like, dude, that's your fault, man. You're not setting the expectations. Like, I'm not here to be your friend. I don't want to be your friend. Like, if I'm interested in talking to you, there's a possibility of us getting together. So there's things like that. When I was saying, when I go on a date, I don't kiss girls on dates. I almost always, I'll give them a hug or something. I'm weird. I don't like females touching me. Like, it makes me uncomfortable. Like, I'm just not like a big like contact person. I don't like people touching me. But eventually, when I'm in a relationship with one, it's fine. Like, whatever. Like, it's fine. But girls need a lot of non-sexual physical contact, like hugs and all this kind of stuff, for them to be emotionally gratified or like solidified, whatever that word is. So I don't do a whole lot of that, which makes them weird. So like, I went on a date with this girl. I picked her up, and we hung out. By hung out, I mean I took her to dinner, and we walked around the mall, and I bought her dessert and all this kind of stuff. We talked, got to know each other. So then when I dropped her off at her house, she's in the car next to me, and she's like, she looks over at me and kind of like waits kind of thing. And I was like, well, thanks for letting me hang out with you. And I just stare at her, and she goes, yeah, I had fun. It's like, all right, we'll see you later. And she was like, okay. And so she gets out, right? And then she goes crazy. Like 3 days later, she's like, hey, because she's thinking, what's wrong with me? Why didn't you want to kiss me? What was it my face? And I'm like, pretty enough? Am I too fat? Like, she starts overanalyzing herself because she's like, why didn't he want to kiss me? And so most girls have that reverse psychology thing where it's like, well, he didn't even try. So it's this thing where it's like, I don't know, like whatever. Like, did I want to kiss you? Sure, but like, I'm not gonna freak out about it. So that's kind of like it works out for me in most cases. But it's interesting, and with the women, they kind of have this thing where they become emotionally attached to things, as do men do. But I think women more so because they have a bigger heart than men do. So it's like this thing where, like AJ was saying, where they go on a date with somebody one time and they expect that you're together. It's like, no, dude. Like, as a woman, dating must be incredibly fun because dudes line up and they're like, no, yes, no, yes, no. And then, like, you get a second interview, and then, like, they basically get to decide. They, like, winning out. What did Jordan Peterson say? Social Darwinism is facilitated by female choice, where, like, if a female chimp's in heat, she'll, like, bang anybody. But, like, a human female, like, even if she's, like, super, like, horny, she's not going to have sex with anybody. So you have to create value in a relationship with someone. Or at least you should. So with men, you have to create your value. And I think that now feminism has done a lot of damage to young girls because it's taken away their power. Where it's like you used to be able to exercise all this power where it's like, hey, you have to show me that you're a good man, that you can provide for me and all this kind of stuff. And then you're going to be a good provider and a good father and all this kind of stuff. And then now girls are just like, hey, whatever, like, sex is like a handshake and I'm a slut and all this kind of stuff. It's like, bro, it's so sad, man. Like, they talked about, it was Lauren Southern. She did an incredible job. She broke down the statistics where the more sexual partners that a female has had, the less happy she'll be with her marriage. It's scary shit. Because when you know more and more about what's on the menu, your go-to meal doesn't seem that great anymore. So if you're in a committed relationship, and I'm of the opinion, the Judeo-Christian philosophy that there isn't the one. Like, people are so fixated on, oh, you got to find the one. The one doesn't exist, right? You get married, that's the one you get till you die. Or if they cheat on you, then if you don't want to fix it, then you can leave. But but for me, it's like, if I get married, dude, like, one of us has to die to get out of this thing. So just that commitment is super solidified. You know, my mom had talked to me about this a lot when I was a kid, and she goes, Andrew, like, there's no such thing as the one. If you get so fixated on the one, this is what's going to happen. You're going to find somebody, you're going to fall in love. Things are going to be great. You're going to get married. And then hard times are going to come. Not if, but when they come, you're going to start questioning. And then if you're going to have a giant fight with this person, then they're going to go, oh, maybe this isn't the one. So then you get a divorce, and then you find, Sarah at work, and you're like, oh my God, Sarah's the one. And you're like, oh, it wasn't Brittany that was the one, it's Sarah. So then you divorce Sarah or whatever it was. So it's like this vicious cycle where it's like, dude, people don't have a lot of commitment anymore. People are always like throwing shit away and like,
Quick to jump ship.
It's so sad. And I think with relationships, dude, like, they have hard times, man. You gotta go with the good, you gotta go with the bad, and I don't know. Like, I've been in relationships where I've been broken up I've been dumped more than I've dumped girls, for sure, because I think I have more commitment in relationships than some people that I've been in relationships with. But next question.
All right, I got one for you.
Yes, sir.
Tell us about West is the Best magazine.
West is Widib.com. Widib is awesome.
Well, how do you feel about this state fair racist?
Remind me.
Apparently now the state fair of Texas is racist towards minorities because it was developed in the 20s.
And?
Well, now it's just the weekly race or the daily racist.
Man, I was talking a little bit about what had been the beginning, where we want to get away from a lot of this kind of stupid shit. People who, it's kind of like the guys. Well, okay, let's talk about this. This will clarify this, because this is something I read in a book. It make me seem pretty smart. No, this wasn't actually a book. It was, oh my god, it was an audio I heard from this guy, Andy something, and he was talking about the law of attraction. And let's say we were hanging out, and I said, I will give you $50 for every picture of a yellow Beetle, a yellow Volkswagen Beetle you can show me. So your focus changes. Something you weren't looking for, you're now looking for everywhere. And so if I gave you $50 for every picture of a yellow Beetle you could show me, you'd go to the fucking airport taking pictures all over the place. You'd be like scoundering like everywhere looking for these things, right? It's because your focus changed. So people are so focused on the narrative that's being pushed where like there's a bunch of racists. No, there's not. But because they're looking for them, they'll see them everywhere, right? And if I said, there's a lot of people that are indoctrinated with bad things. Say if there's a little girl brought up to believe that all men are assholes and they're evil and they hate you and they just all want to fuck you and you're a piece of meat and all this kind of stuff. Which is not the case. She'll grow up believing that because she was indoctrinated and brainwashed. And so she'll see men and look for their behavior. She'll seek out the negative things about their behavior to justify what she's already been predispositioned to see. So she'll go, oh, all men are assholes. So she'll be waiting, scrutinizing, combing his behavior to see when he's an asshole and go, look, he's an asshole. He did this thing. He's an asshole. But he could have done 99 good things, and then the one bad thing, she's like, look at this bad thing. I think far too many people are far too negative, and it's really bumming me out, dog. I think it causes a lot of problems, man. It's the Nazis in the soup, dude. They're just looking for him. And there's a lot of justification for behavior, and the whole Nazi thing is like, oh, everyone's a Nazi, so I can punch them in the face. It's like, what? No, what are you talking about? Milo Yiannopoulos was in that Australian guy's documentary, and Steven Crowder did that, where he had intercepted Antifa, and he did that thing. Crazy shit, man. These people are justifying this horrific behavior against people they don't like, and it's disgusting.
I think it's safe to say that a lot of it that's going on is it's this sort of racism coming almost full circle in a sense. Like, I think a lot of people that voted for Obama in 2008, that was
like yourself.
I did. It was. I'm sorry for slavery. A lot of white people voted for Obama in 2008, and they were literally saying, we're sorry. We don't mind black president. And then as soon as a black president
him being black was never the problem.
And it wasn't.
It was a red
herring. It wasn't
herring.
at a time. But I think there was a lot of white guilt then that got him elected.
Yep.
And then what immediately happened after Obama got elected was he turned it around on everybody.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden half the country is, almost 65-70% of the country, 60%, 62% of the country is white. And they voted for the guy, and now all those people are racist because they're white.
I was talking to a friend of mine who's Hispanic last night, and he's like, dude, like, I don't understand why people hate Trump so much. I'm like, because they think that he's evil. Trump is not perfect. He does a lot of stupid shit. What did Ben Shapiro say? Donald Trump's basically a New York he's like basically a New York taxi driver. Like, he does all that shit you would assume that if you gave a taxi driver $1 billion, what he would do, like, get gold toilets and like bang supermodels and stuff. But like, he's a people's man. Like, Trump's fucking awesome. And to just go, oh, you like, just because you like this guy, you believe everything that he believes. It's like, dude, that's not the case, man. That's not the case. I like the shit that he's doing, and I think that all the opposition shows that he's doing the right thing. I was watching this audio one time by Grant Cardone, who was talking about how he had just written this book, and he was talking to this publisher. And the publisher's like, he's selling this book. This publisher's like, dude, this is awesome. This is sales training. Like, you need to read this book. You're gonna publish it. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna make you so much money. And the publisher was like, okay, give me your card, and I'll look over your stuff, and I'll let you know. And he goes, all right, I'll follow up with you. So he gives his book, and then Grant Cardone's like, all right, dude, I'm going to call this guy. And this guy was like, what? So it was 45 minutes later after you just talked to this guy. He's like, yeah, I'm going to follow him up, dog. I'm going to call him right now. And he goes, dude, it's too soon, dog. You can't call him. It's inappropriate. You saw him 45 minutes ago. You can't follow up with this guy. It's too soon. He goes, you know why I know you're wrong? And he goes, what are you talking about? He goes, you're wrong. You want to know why you're wrong? And he goes, why? He said, if I asked 100 people if it was too soon to call this guy, all of them would agree with you. And that's how I know you're wrong. It's because 99% of people do the wrong thing. What did Warren Buffett say? He always says, if 99% of people are scared, you need to be confident. If 99% of people are confident, you need to be scared. Because it's always this reciprocal thing where it's like, what was it? Weak men create bad times, and bad times create strong men, and strong men create comfort people, and comfortable people create bad times. And it's like all this circle thing. So AJ is going to pull us up a video so I can quickly use the latrine and run back. Pull up something interesting, Mr. Producer. As Jason would say, Mr. Producer, thank you for the coffee, Mr. Producer. All right, I've just been told that I'm running on an hour, so we're going to shut it down here. I hope that my wonderfully boring life story is able to shine some context on who I am and my dating preference. Hopefully this was not a stupid show. I'll probably get into more of the nitty-gritty. If you're more interested in some particular stories in my life, I can tell some funny stories or something like that. I just want to save them for more context where we're talking about something I'm able to bring up a story. But I just want to give you guys like a light background on who I am and what we're doing with WITIB. We're still looking for contributors for WITIB, like I said. Probably 5 to 10 more people to be writing articles. Our goal right now is to get an article out every day, a piece of content for West is the Best out every single day, which is something we're pushing for. I have a meeting on Wednesday with the guys, and we're going to solidify a lot of this kind of stuff. So we're going to need a lot more contributors, or the contributors that we have to step up. I have it listed on the website. If you write 10 or more articles, we'll add you to the contributor list for us. If you write 50 or more articles, we'll add you to the senior contributor list. And so I'm excited about what we're doing here. I'm excited about our partnership with TrueTube and what we're able to be doing and bringing you guys content today through this venue. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in. And hopefully we'll see you next week on the next episode of the West is the Best live show.